9 a.m. can only mean one thing. And what is that, Sharon?
It's podcast time. And this time, we've got a film. Which film is it, Mark?
Joker, the 2019 smash hit that is The Joker. Joaquin Phoenix, legend. Now, as everybody will know, that are regular listeners and viewers to this podcast, we love a film, we love a book, and we love an interesting topic. And that could be a topic that could be quite challenging to explore, or something that is really fascinating to us, like cars or talking about ordinary men. Now, it's very rare that you find a film, a mainstream film, I think, not like these off-brand Czechoslovakian films that are a little bit niche and really weird. A mainstream film that ticks all the boxes for you. And I'm talking about us in that context around. It's a little bit weird. It's a little bit extreme. It covers a topic that we feel very passionate about. The shooting of the video, the style, the music, the cinematography is beautiful. The writing, the script is more than you could imagine. Very few films tick that box. For me, there's probably a handful of films that do that. Off the top of my head, Joker's one that we're going to explore today. Inception is another one for me that is absolutely brilliant. And interestingly, Django Unchained, which I watched recently, which is a fascinating film. If you haven't seen that, Sharon, I could highly recommend that. Fantastic Tarantino film. But we'll just jump straight into this because with all the podcasts that we do when we explore films, we're not going to go scene to scene, breaking down the dialect. What did he mean by this? What do you think was meant by that? We're just going to talk about it from a fan point of view, from two people that very much got very powerful points from the film that touched and resonated in our own lives, but also to encourage people that haven't seen it to go and watch it. I mean, for me, Sharon, when I went to the cinema to see this, I went to the cinema twice to see it. Once with my wife and once with my brother. My wife didn't really understand it. She didn't really enjoy it. Myself and my brother, we thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, it was just a masterpiece. Did you see your version on Sky, or did you go to the cinema to see it, Sharon? Where did you watch it?
Yeah, so I did the same. I went to the cinema with my husband to watch it first, and then a night later, I went again by myself to the cinema to watch it again because I just absolutely loved it. And I came out the first time going, wow, mind blown. And there was just so many aspects of it that made me just kept, you know, when you read a book or you watch a film and it just keeps playing in your mind and you go, oh, that bit, oh, that bit, oh, that bit. So yeah, I fully immersed myself in that film and it stayed with me. I've probably watched it 4 or 5 times, maybe more, since it came out. And it is something that I get something from it every time I watch it. So this is the reason why we picked it for the listeners today.
It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because if you think about the Joker as a character, you've got some very iconic actors that have played that role. I'm thinking, Jack Nicholson in Batman. I mean, a little bit comedic, a bit of a silly Joker, but at the time it was absolutely fantastic. You watch that now, and it's dated a little bit, but I think the performance from Jack Nicholson was fantastic. And then you have Heath Ledger, who then played it and won an Oscar posthumously in his role as the Joker. Now, when I first heard that this film was being made and I saw some of the clips and the trailers, naively, I thought, how can anybody follow on from Heath? How that Joker was just sublime for me. What actor is going to bring a different aspect to this role that we haven't seen? And when I first saw the film, it's very dark. It's very heavy. You feel heavy watching the film. It's shot in a way where you could almost feel the weight on his shoulders on you as well as you're watching him drudge through Gotham City and his daily struggles. Him trying to make it as a comedian. I mean, quite interestingly, you can definitely see. I've got IMDb, so we can do some facts and we can explore them. But you can see why it's the first R-rated movie in history to make over $1 billion worldwide. Now, I thought the newer It, I would say, not the original one, which in my opinion is still the best. Was one of the first R-rated movies to do that, but I was wrong. Because according to IMDb, it was the Joker. And what I learned today, Sharon, when I was doing some boning up and some research about it, one of the things that Mr. Joaquin Phoenix explained was the hardest parts of the role to play was getting the Joker's laugh right.
And what struck me is you've got laughing all the way through for different reasons, sometimes vulnerable, sometimes powerful, sometimes real laughs, but the majority are not, and quite sad, which is not normal for laughter. And he carries that card around, doesn't he, and says, sorry, it's uncontrollable laughter that is a condition, which then he decides it's not actually at all. It's something his mum potentially put in there when she kept calling him happy. And also the dancing. The laughter and the dancing kind of continue and flex and flow throughout the entire film in different ways. And what I really liked was, that scene where he first kills the guys on the train and goes into that public toilet, and he just starts doing this kind of ballet type dancing where he's all like different angles and stuff like that, compared to the strutting down the stairs. They've used the laughter, they've used the dancing, they've used the music, they've used the shooting, of the film to show the transformation and show him gradually going from someone who's almost quite pathetic to start with, very down, very just living with his mum, hanging on the every word of Murray, the show host, to somebody who at the very end has transformed into a hero and is standing I think he ends up dancing, doesn't he, on that car bonnet, surrounded by everyone who's been rioting, and they're looking up at him as a hero. So for me, seeing how those things changed was a ribbon weaved throughout the whole movie.
Well, he's a very violent person, is the Joker, if you think about it. And we'll call him the Joker, not by the actor's name. We'll just call him the Joker, because he wanted to be called that, didn't he, in Murray's show? So we'll do him that service and call him the Joker. But he is a very violent character, and for such a violent film, not that many people are killed. And what I did read today, which was fascinating, is the director at the time was talking about the Avengers, or even as far back as a Saving Private Ryan. And he says, and I quote, "When you're killing 40,000 people, you don't feel it. But I think throughout the film of the Joker, he kills maybe 5 or 6, 3 on the subway. And there was the guy who was his Joker clown colleague, killed him in his apartment. And then he kills Murray, as he calls him. Murray. That's 5. I can't remember if he killed anybody else.
So he kills the counsellor right at the end, doesn't he? He's
yes. So yes. So 6 people he kills in that film, and that is arguably more violence than when you see 40,000 people killed. And this just goes to show the quality of this film, because what the director said is, I want to put you in it. I want to make it feel intimate. I want you to feel the hesitation before doing it, and then the excitement arguably, per se, of actually pulling the trigger or stabbing someone, or however he decides to kill them within various parts of the film. And that very much came through for me, because when he's on the train and you've got those Wall Street guys harassing that young lady, and naturally, when you go over to Arthur and you put him in a difficult situation, he starts to laugh uncontrollably, because that's his defense mechanism. That's just his condition, and he can't get his card out quick enough. And as a result of that, the Wall Street guys get in his face and they start to be violent with him and they start to beat him up. And then he shoots them. But if he would have had a submachine gun stood on the beaches of Normandy gunning down 100 Nazis, it wouldn't feel the same. You just can't connect to that. But I mean, how many times in our lives, we wouldn't be sat here now if we've been brought that far to a reaction. But how many times have you felt beaten down or beaten up or pushed by an individual or individuals or a situation where you want to react and you don't react? It almost feels real for me. And I think that's why one of the reasons when the film aired, it got a 6-minute standing ovation at the end of it for the people that saw it in the premiere, because it is just so palpable.
It is. You can really relate to it because he is effectively the underdog, isn't he? So he's anybody. When we'll kind of get that statistic that any of us is, a paycheck away from being homeless or whatever, and he's in that sort of catchment, I guess, isn't he? He's in that position where so many things happen to him, one after another. I mean, he's got his clown job, which right at the start he's not happy anyway, and he's struggling. He's got his issues. But one by one, people let him down. They betray him. He finds out that the awful truth about his mum abusing him. Murray laughs at him, who's his absolute hero. He gets sacked. Thing after beaten. Thing after thing happens to him until it is just reaches a crescendo, and you can well imagine as you watch the film, being taken through those different stages from, okay, my life's pretty crap, to my life is unbearable, and my grip on reality is quite shaky at this point. And because he keeps saying, and he says it several times throughout the movie, am I real? Am I invisible? And when he's talking to his counselor lady, and he's saying, "Are you listening? Can you hear me?" And that, I think, is why he starts this whole, okay, well, if no one can see me and I'm not real, I'm not worth anything, and no one really cares, effectively I can do what I like. And that's when he starts kind of going off the rails and taking things into his own hands and shooting people. But it's so relatable because you can well imagine, after the things that have happened to him, that someone could be pushed that far and go into that sort of situation.
Well, the world isn't all sunbeams and rainbows, is it? So I can definitely relate to that. And it's almost as if when he puts his makeup on, he becomes somebody else. Or should I say, he's allowed to be him. So we could say, poor guy, etc., etc. And yes, he's had a terrible time, abuses a child. But does it justify him doing the things that he's done? Probably not. But I can understand what made him do those things. He clearly shouldn't be out and about because he's a very ill person. But what I found fascinating, and you see it when he goes onto the Murray show, when he puts his makeup on and he asks Murray, when you bring me out, can you introduce me as the Joker? And they go, yeah, sure, of course you can. And then he's getting introduced by Murray, and he just starts doing his dancing, doesn't he, behind the curtain, like he's allowed to be him. He's being seen for the first time. He wasn't seen at all. He was, he says, doesn't he, if I was dying in the street, you would walk by me like I don't exist. Now people are seeing him, and I think it's because he's allowed, through his portrayal of the Joker, to let his true character come through, because he's off his meds. Nothing's repressing him. He's allowing that to come to the fruition, and you see that with a confidence in him when he comes out on stage, because Arthur, before he's the Joker, would not walk on a stage in front of a live audience, in front of cameras, and kiss one of the women as he's coming on and do a little dance. He just wouldn't. That is not Arthur Fleck. It's not him. But when he puts his mask on and he puts his suit on, he becomes, or he transforms into a higher version of Arthur Fleck, which becomes the Joker. He then can dance. He then can be as charismatic as he wants to be. He's not fazed by the cameras. He's not fazed with people laughing at him when he's trying to get his joke right. He's articulate enough to be able to direct his anger through his words before they then become a reaction, which is him pulling the trigger and shooting him. But I found that whole scene of him coming out. How many of us have, in a different way, you've left a job, you've left a partner, you've you've come out of a bad situation, and you feel like a butterfly. You can dance, you can sing in some way, shape, or form. You can allow yourself to be you. And if I dare be so bold, I think I can knit that quite closely to what it's like. And Sharon, you can testify to this, to starting your own business. I mean, who would have known that we talking about the Joker, we end up talking about starting your own business. But when you start your own business, your corporate mask, I would say, comes off, and your mask, the real you, is on, because there are no shades of grey. It is just you. You've got to be real with yourself, but you've also got to be real with the people you're interacting with, because there are no excuses. You've got to make it work, and if you don't, that's on nobody else but you. So you can see the transition from being in a very repressive relationship, environment, job, to then having all those shackles taken away from you, and watch you come out of that chrysalis? Is it chrysalis?
Yes.
Yeah, into a beautiful butterfly. I've got an interesting fact for you, Sharon. I was just pondering over while I was going on one of my very random rants. So, Arthur, budding comedian, isn't he? Do you know the name of the comedy club? It's not a trick question. No. I didn't know until I read it, to be honest. So it's called Pogo's Comedy Club in Gotham. And do you know why that is relevant? And that's quite interesting?